Okay, so in this video I'm going to show you how I'm going to be processing these wood chips here that have been sitting here roughly for somewhere around 3 years, maybe a little better than 3 years. I don't remember exactly when I got them, but it's somewhere around 3 years. So I'll give you a closer look at what I've already started digging it up too, by the way. I've pretty much removed all of this. I'm going to be tearing all of that out, all around the trees. Going to get that out of the way. I can't get my mower in there and everything, so we're just going to take that out. But let me just show you some of what I'm actually removing. Now, like I said, this has been sitting here roughly about 3 years. So what you're looking at here is pretty well digested wood chips, and there's a lot of material in between, and it's the material in between the wood chips that's here is what we want to try to gather and save. So what I'll do is I'm going to scoop up a barrel full of this, then I'll bring you to the back of the greenhouse. I'll show you what we got, and then we'll process a load of it, and then we'll show you what the final product looks like once I'm done screening this all out, and then show you what I'm left with, and then we could talk a little bit about that. Okay, so we'll see you in a minute. Alright, so here we are. We got a wheelbarrow full of wood chips that are mostly digested, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate this, and I'm going to show you what the finished product is. Basically, I'm going to be left with wood chips that didn't digest, and I'm going to be left with soil. Now, rather than me having you watch me do all of the screening and everything, I'll just do a small sample for you, what I do, and how I screen it out, and then I'll show you what the finished product looks like. Okay, so let's get a sample, if we can, by hand. We're just going to take the top layer off. The very bottom of this wheelbarrow is mostly soil, very rich black soil. Now there might be a little bit of native earth mixed in with this, but it's very little. That pile that you've seen out there, that pile was probably about 4 feet thick at one time, and I spread it out to like maybe 3 feet, 2.5 feet, something like that, and then it sat there for like 3 years, and now that pile is maybe 6 inches thick with the soil that I'm removing, so there's not very much product left. But let's see what I do here. Now, basically what I do, now this is a 1/4 by 1/4 screen. It's only a 1/4 inch screen. You can make something like this. You can build it with 2 by 4, whatever you want to do. This is good enough for me. I generally use this for pretty much everything. I do a lot of my sifting right here. So basically, all I do is I just sift it out. Just give it a shake, rattle and roll, kind of move it around a little bit like this. Now some of this stuff you're going to want to, you don't have to remove like this stuff with the stringy stuff in there. You don't have to remove that. That will break down in your garden. But just for appearance reasons, I really don't want tons and tons of roots showing up, so I just remove it. And if you see anything in here, like the earthworms are fine, they're going out in the garden anyway. Little bits like that I'm not worried about. But if you see any kind of live weeds that are still in there, that's my weed bucket. I just remove them. I don't want them in the garden. Anything that has green on it, I pretty much remove. No big deal, even if it does sprout in there, it's easy to pull out among the wood chips. And basically, this is what you end up with in the end. Just a pile of wood chips like that. Now I'm going to show you what the soil looks like. And basically, I do that. You know, I empty it out. And this is the finished product, guys. Look at how rich that soil is. Look at this. Now this is broken down wood chips. 90% of it. There might be some leaves that broken down in there, maybe some other stuff, but this is mostly pure wood chips mulch that we're left with here. This is the most beautiful soil you're ever going to see. The one thing about this though that I'm not 100% happy with is the amount of insects in here. And the insects ain't bad, but there's insects in here that look like they feed on the roots. So if you see them, like grubs or some of those other ones, I can't remember what they look like. I don't see any in here. They're like orange and they got like pinchers on it. I think those eat roots as well. You definitely want to remove those. But as you can see here, look at this soil. Look at how beautiful this soil is. This soil doesn't get any better than this, guys. This is about as good as you're going to get as far as topsoil. This is the best stuff in the earth. And that's what I've been using to plant my tomatoes out this year. I'm not adding anything to it. I'm just planting directly in the stick mulch, if you want to call it that. Here's a pail ready to go. You can see how black that soil is. The thing now, you can add other stuff to it. You want to add some lime to it. You want to add some other stuff. You can do that. I'm kind of doing it without it, just to kind of see how my plants are going to do directly in the soil by itself. So I'm kind of like taking a chance by doing that, but I can always top dress it mid-season with some lime and some other, you know, I have worm casting tea. I'm going to water it with that, so maybe that'll help feed it and all. But I really want to see how my plants are going to do in this natural, beautiful looking finished product right here. And believe it or not, it may not look like it to you, but a lot of this is probably also turned into, I guess you could say castings, like worm castings, but also like an insect frass as well. Because the insects are, you know, they're eating it up. There's termites living in there, ants, and worms are eating at it, and the mycorrhiza's been breaking it down, and here's something that might be a problem. Where did he go? This little guy right here. Where are you? Look like a termite. It's no big deal. But yeah, I mean, it's not just wood chips. It's also all the insects that have been breaking it down, and the fungals that have been breaking down those wood chips. This compost is extremely rich with life. It's incredible. Now, if you're really worried about bugs, then solarize it if you want, but you're going to kill off everything, the mycorrhiza, everything in there, the fungi, everything's going to die off, and you kill the bugs, but you kill everything else with it too. So I don't recommend doing that, but if you're really adamant on it, then, you know, just solarize it. But this is a wonderful product, and, you know, as you can see, what it looks like before you plant it. Now, in general, I wouldn't suggest planting directly in something like this. I think it's just too rough for plants, though some plants will live. Look. An albino millipede. An albino millipede. I'm sorry for getting distracted. But you can see all of this stuff is fungal dominated. All these roots that are on here aren't roots. That's actually a mycorrhiza. So it's very heavily fungal dominated. Mushrooms are popping up all over the place from this stuff. Very, very good. But I still recommend you separate it. Now, once you separate it, the two products you're going to be left with in the end is your soil, as you can see here. And you're going to be left with the wood chips. And as you can see, once I process it, it's pretty much wood chips. But these kind of wood chips... Now, you've probably heard me complain in the past about wood chips in your garden. I didn't care for it. Yes, that's true. I don't care for wood chips in the garden when they're freshly cut white wood chips. That's no good. You want your wood chips down to this stage. Now, by the end of this year and by the end of next year, most of that wood chips will be completely consumed. There won't be anything left but more of this. So this wood chips has already been processed. It's not going to rob the nitrogen from your soil like fresh wood chips do, like you see on my floor here. That's fresh wood chips. It's just going to rob the nitrogen from your soil once it starts getting wet. So these kind of wood chips is the type of wood chips I recommend for, you know, if you're gonna use it for a top mulch on around your vegetables. Here, I'll show you what's going on outside. Sorry, I'm out of breath here from hauling that 2 cubic yards of that stuff down here. Alright, so you can see it out here. You know, you can see how I got my tomatoes planted. Yeah, they're a little yellow because they really went through a really hard transfer shock. But they're going to green up, and then once they adapt to out here, they'll be fine. They'll really start taking off. But you can see the finished product of these wood chips. you know, once it rains a few times, then it'll get nice. It'll look like it's bright, but it's not going to stay bright. It's going to keep breaking down because it's so close to being turned into a mulch already that it will continue to break down, even out here if it's exposed to sunlight. You know, you can see how I'm applying it as mulch all the way around. Needs to rain here a few times, and what I'm going to do in between the rows of tomatoes, I'm going to put leaves down so I walk on it and my feet don't get, you know, muddy on a wet day or something. So I'm going to use regular leaves in between the rows. And I'll do a garden tour once I get everything planted out, or once I start planting out my, you know, my pepper plants here. But I just wanted to show you the finished product, what you're going to end up with as far as wood chips go. You're going to end up with stuff like this. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. That's good for mulch. That is going to make a great mulch this year. So, anyway, I just wanted to give you a quick look at, you know, what I do with wood chips, how I process them, and the finished product in the end. Again, this is this beautiful product. Now you can add perlite to that if you want, and then mix it with peat moss, and I'm going to do that for my pots. But outdoors, I didn't waste my time with it. This is good enough for outdoors. So, anyways, and as far as how much am I going to yield from that pile, oh my God. Had I put that whole thing in one pile, I had 3 truckloads came in, and I spread it all over my yard. Had I let those 3 truckloads just sit in one pile for a year like that, I would have more soil than I probably would ever know what to do with. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I haven't even scratched the surface of what you see me scooping up. I haven't even scratched the surface, and I'll have enough soil, another maybe 2 wheelbarrows. I'll have enough soil to plant all my whole garden outside. And maybe 1 more wheelbarrow will pretty much finish all my pepper plants that got to get repotted and everything. So it's an intense amount of soil. When 4 feet of wood chips breaks down into 6 inches, you don't realize how much soil is there, but there's going to be a lot. And this is roughly, I don't know, I would probably say maybe a 60-40 mix. It's probably 60% soil with about 40% wood chips left in it. Most of that wood chips actually turn to soil, and that's what you're looking at here. So there's still 40% left, which is a perfect mixture, because if you sift it like I do, you got a top mulch and now you got a soil to work with. So you really can't beat that. So if you have any questions as far as the you know, how I you know, process the soil, where did I get my wood chips from? If you have any questions like that, just comment below and I'll do the best I can to answer. I did do a video about how to get free wood chips if you're interested in getting wood chips delivered to your property. The only caveat to that is, if you don't know what kind of wood chips are coming to you, there could be a multitude of problems that develop later on down the road. So don't put the wood chips anywhere near your garden. Let them sit in a pile for about, I'd say like 3 to 4 years. Let them sit. Any disease or molds or anything in there, that'll self-correct within that period of time. But like I say, you got to be conscientious of the type of wood chips that you're processing. For one, if you're getting a lot of cherry wood or black walnut, for example, they will stunt the growth of your plants because of the type of what they have in them, and they can actually cause damage to your plants in larger amounts. A couple of branches, no, it won't do anything. But if you got like a pile of wood chips and 30% of it is ground up cherry wood or black walnut, then you're going to have a problem growing in that. So if you have a problem with that, you just try to be careful what kind of wood chips you get and the stuff that you're letting process. Now, black walnut and the other one's fine if you want to break it down and in another part of your yard, but don't use that in your garden. I don't recommend that in your garden at all. So just keep that in mind with wood chips. That's about it. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.